What crimes are you okay with people committing? I worked at La Madeleine in college, and for the first few months, we were allowed to bring home anything that they had to throw away due to company guidelines. Most of what was left was the baked goods in the pâtisserie. Full-sized cakes, croissants, cookies, muffins, etc. Gained a lot of weight working there. One of the women working there would take a full-sized cake over to the firehouse most nights. Then someone got food poisoning or something at one of their hundreds of locations, and we were no longer allowed to take anything and had to throw it all away. It was sad to throw away so much food that so many people were stoked to receive as a gift. Up. And just as a reminder to anyone wanting to have their kids open one, Country Time Lemonade will pay any tickets you get for operating a lemonade stand. Some little girls down my street operate one with their dad in the summer. I think it's such an awesome lesson he's teaching them: inventory, customer service skills, making change, and they choose what they sell. They sell chips too usually. We usually go by a few times each summer. U/SPIFAZ It's a bit more complicated than that. For what it's worth, I'm a geriatric nurse. I deal with 90-year-old patients in agony every single day. I agree they should have the right to terminate their life. The problem is, how do you decide if the 90-year-old dementia patient should or shouldn't die? They're no longer able to consent. They don't even remember their own name anymore. And you certainly aren't in a position to make this decision for them. And if you are, there would need to be extremely strict protocols so this doesn't get abused. In some European countries where it is legal, Switzerland I believe, the patient has to be cross-examined by 3 separate doctors before being deemed fit to make the decision to end their life. I'm a geriatric psychiatrist. I sent patients with end-stage dementia to inpatient hospice facilities not infrequently. Basically, it's the same principle. If a patient, who later develops dementia, had made a decision that either their loved one can make that call, or that with advance directives state that at a certain threshold they would like to terminate their life, then we should honor that. Too many people with end-stage dementia are severely impaired and don't get to die with dignity. Hospice isn't the same as assisted suicide though. At least not in my country. And I don't know where you practice, but in my country end-stage dementia is not a criteria to enter a hospice here. You need to prove you will be dead within X months, I believe it's 3, with absolutely no chance of recovery or getting better. Dementia patients don't generally qualify unless they also have another terminal disease that qualifies. I don't think these are the people we are talking about. We are talking about people with a very bad case of cancer, for example. These people know they are going to die, and a lot of time, know that it's going to be a horrible death. If these people, who are able to clearly think and make the decision to end their life, they should be able to. In Canada, it is only allowed if the person themselves consents to every step of the process. I knew an elderly gentleman with terminal cancer who chose euthanasia, and his wife said that the medication was something you drink, and no one was even allowed to hold the straw for him. Every step has to be taken affirmatively by the patient. I am strongly for medically assisted death as long as the patient wants it. It's your own business. In my country, Netherlands, it is in most counties illegal to draw letters or words which chalk in public. This law is made so companies can't advertise their product. Technically you could get a warning for it or have to pay a fine, but I have never heard that children got a fine for drawing on the street, and I also don't think most people are aware of this, and I especially don't think a policeman is cruel enough to fine a child. Edit. This doesn't only apply on chalk, but I don't know why a child would draw with tar. Dumpster diving. Feeding the homeless. Leaving food and water for migrants. Trespassing through privately owned woods to gain access to a river for tubing because the previously awesome public launch spot got purchased by a tubing company that won't let people access the river without paying them a decent chunk of money even though you aren't renting tubes from them. Feeding the homeless. It's entirely possible I might get arrested for that one day. I agree that homeless in downtown areas can be a major issue. But making it illegal to give food to them is not the way, and at least one city in Florida did that. If a city near me does it, I'll probably go buy $100 lunches and let the community know where I'll be handing them out. I'll also let the police know where so they can arrest me. That's a hill I'll die on. This happened to me too. A complete dick move by those people. Worse yet, the houses in my neighborhood have a significant increase in value because of creek access. Well, there is none anymore. I was so petty about this I interrupted a real estate agent and customer talking about the value of the house and told the customer there wasn't creek access. Agent tried to argue with me. Embarrassed herself before the client. I think I am now against trespassing through privately owned woods to gain access to a river for tubing because the previously awesome public launch spot got purchased by a tubing company that won't let people access the river without paying them a decent chunk of money even though you aren't renting tubes from them. I'm not sure why, but it's just a feeling I have. And I don't agree with the last one only because of so many stories. My grandfather has 500 acres on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. Guy trespassing doing something at the Red River broke his leg on his property. Went to my grandfather's property insurance and won even though he was trespassing. They fought that my grandfather didn't have enough no trespassing/private property signs showing. Jacked up his premium. My neighbor has 98 acres that backs up to a lake. People are always trespassing in that area. Once again someone got hurt, sued them. Something about not having a pathway, because it's their land, then a 10-ish foot drop. People go up there to get a better view or whatever, then there's really not a way down without jumping or walking a long way around to where it naturally slopes to the lake. Anyway, they had to pay the people and build a pathway. which just causes more trespassing even though there are tons of signs. There is an insane amount of food wasted daily on film and TV sets. I was told on multiple different productions in the beginning that it was illegal for them to pack it up and take it down to Venice or Skid Row. That someone got food poisoning one time and production company got sued. I never really knew if it was a urban legend that was just passed off as gospel though. If it happened it was in the 70s or 80s, so by the time I hit Hollywood it was the story everyone heard. Don't get me started on the amount of wasted plastic water bottles. That's insufficient. The ultra-wealthy usually do not have high salaries, usually to avoid taxes. Let's use Mark Zuckerberg as an example. His salary is $1. His net worth comes from his Facebook stock. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't sell his stock. Instead, he goes to a bank and takes out a large loan to buy his luxuries. He offers his stock in Facebook as collateral. He now has all the spending money he needs, but because it's in the form of a loan, he doesn't need to pay taxes on it, especially not the notorious capital gains tax. Because he is such a reliable debtor, his loans have a negligible interest rate. Also, he can deduct the loan interest payments from his taxes, so it's a double win. The phrase was originally J driving or J drivers J being old-timey slang for a rube, a hick, an idiot, but car campaigns waged a sustained propaganda campaign to flip it around and vilify the pedestrians instead. They hired actors and staged fake crashes and arguments to sell the notion that roads are solely for the cars and everyone else needs to get the fuck out of the way. The erosion of pedestrian rights only continued until they were basically forced from the public road entirely. It is not the case that we built roads for cars to enjoy and folks crossing on foot were surprised to see these iron carriages trundling along. For obvious reasons, I think saying I support child abduction would be just a tad insane, haha. But I do think many children are failed and let down by the system. Too many do fall through the cracks. I would not find it difficult to condone abducting a child if the sole purpose of that abduction was to rescue the child from imminent danger and or an abusive home and place them in a safe environment. My dad's best friend, Dave, was at the VFW shooting the shit with friends. And a mutual friend, Jay, starts talking about this turtle he caught to make turtle soup. Dave decides he's finished, left, and drove to Jay's house and rescued the turtle and set it free. Hilarity ensued for the friend group. The funniest bit to me is Dave spoke at Jay's funeral years later, at the VFW mind you, and told the story. My decision to bring my small children to the service was shook when every other word from Dave was fucking Jay and fucking turtle. Always makes me smile. I stole a puppy from an underground breeder. You could smell the dog shit from a block away. The 8 puppies were barricaded in the laundry room and it looked like a toilet had backed up a month's worth of shit and piss on the floor. I was at the girl's house buying weed, and when she went to weigh my bag I had my friend grab one of the puppies and set it outside. That puppy is a dog now and is happy and well taken care of. I'm not sure about all of his brothers and sisters, but I know at least 2 were sold to people that are pretty well-known dog fighters. Some people are dicks. In cases of self-defense, yes, but not as revenge for being abused. Ruling a killing to be preemptive self-defense would require considerable reworking of laws, which needs to happen, but needs to be done properly to stop exploitation of said law. The laws absolutely need to be changed to allow much earlier intervention of law enforcement, however. I know cops who say it's absolutely heartbreaking when they get called to DV, where they know the woman is being abused, but is too scared to say anything, so they just have to leave, knowing it's gonna continue. That needs to change ASAP. Legal in many states, but still illegal according to federal law. In many cases, state law precludes the federal, which is why cops aren't out there making weed arrests based on federal law. Although they arguably could still arrest you for having weed, just to give you a bad day, knowing that you'll have to mount a defense in court to avoid the charges. Sort of like those cops that sit at 4-way stop signs and ticket anyone doing 1 mile per hour over the posted limit. In some jurisdictions in the US it is no longer illegal, and attempting to break a window for these reasons can fall under the Good Samaritan protections in those jurisdictions. Oftentimes, being on the phone with emergency dispatch and telling the dispatcher what the condition of the child or animal appears to be, whether they are in distress, i.e. do they appear to have issues breathing/rapid heavy breathing, the outside temperature, and that you are planning to break the window is enough for dispatch to also talk you through the safest way to do so, especially if the child/animal is in distress. I don't think anyone is really in favor of abortions. I'm in favor of them being available, but I hope no one I know ever has to get one. Not because I see it as a moral issue, but because it is my understanding to be an extremely emotional decision and event, even if it's the right decision for the individual. The same way I support any other form of healthcare, tbh. I hope no one I know needs insulin, but I'm sure as hell going to support them getting it cheaply, easily, and safely. Stealing from large corporations, to survive. I feel like it's slightly stepping over the line to do it just because you can, but I wouldn't write someone off as a bad person for that. I would just see them as having a bit of a mischievous streak, I guess, and maybe hide anything small and valuable before they come over, lol. Also, smoking weed, buying weed, growing weed or selling weed. Weed is generally harmless and medicinal, IMO. Unless it makes you anxious. Please be kind to yourself and don't smoke it if it makes you feel bad, and don't let anyone invalidate you or try to coerce you to smoke it, just saying. I mean, that's why we have police/judges/prisons. We used to just mop up and hang people on the spot, but those were pretty dark times and I don't want them back. So where do you draw the line? Someone attacked my sister? I kill him. Someone stole from the elderly. Kill. Some politician stole $1 million. Kill. There are thousands of disgusting crimes in this world, and I don't want people running around with butcher knives killing people without trial.